I was muted. Hello, everyone. We are back for this afternoon at Apidays Interface, and I'm really glad to be the moderator of a track a lot of people are expecting, the async API track or asynchronous APIs. We're talking about events, or we will be talking about streams, and for that, we will open the track with Fran Mendes, the creator of the async API, and also director of engineering at Postman. Hello, Fran. How are you doing?
Hey, Mehdi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I invite you to share your slides and share with us the state of async API. Let's pronounce it like that.
Sure. Let's do it. So, welcome everybody. Thanks to the API Days organizations for inviting me once again. You must be tired of hearing me and hearing about async API. I'm sorry, but you keep inviting me, so I'm gonna do it again. So my name is Fran Mendes. As Mehdi said, I am the director, the executive. It's called the executive director of Async API Initiative, which is the organization that is managing the Async API specification and tools. And also, I work as director of engineering at Postman. Yeah, I'm sure you all know Postman, and doesn't need introduction. So, yeah, today I'm gonna talk about what's the current state of async API. Since it's only 25 minutes talk, I'm not gonna go really deep into the current state and all the things that we're doing. Even after this talk, I strongly encourage you to go to our website asyncapi.com or asyncapi.org. And join our community, because really you will see that there are lots of things happening. It's impossible for me in 25 minutes to list all the things that we're doing. And to be honest, I don't even know all the things that are happening on Async API. It's become that big for a single person to know what's happening in all the whole organization. So yeah, with that said, let me just go to the next slide. So I talk a little bit about what happened last year. So I think it's important for all of you who didn't hear about Async API in a long time, or never heard about Async API. So last year we decided to join Postman. I'm in the core team working on Async API. We joined Postman, and then we decided as well that to make the spec more neutral, it needed to join a neutral ground, right? So we decided to donate Async API specification and tools, all the projects under the Async API GitHub organization, to Linux Foundation. So it is not controlled by Postman or by any other company. Okay, so we even established a system, a governance system, so that people cannot take control of it and abuse the power in the governance of the initiative. Not even myself. So as an example, I usually get requests of, hey Fran, let's get you paid for doing this or that into the spec or into the tools, because it's cool for company X. So yeah, don't do that in first place. It's not fair. And in second place, I can't. I don't have the power to do these things. There's a huge TSC that we set up with a lot of people from different companies and also individual contributors that will not allow me to do weird stuff just for the sake of money or any other reason. So yeah, I invite you to join our initiative, and now that it's in a safe place, in a neutral place, and see how we actually are as transparent as we say. And speaking about transparency, so because we don't hire anything, we don't hide anything. We also talk about money. I'm just showing a number there. This is the current money that we have on the initiative right now. So this is all the money that we have right now, and it was updated yesterday, so it should be pretty accurate. And what is it? What is this money? So this money is coming from different sources, mainly, and I will say, if not all, right now, sponsors, right? So sponsors are donating money every month, and you have IBM here, which is actually one of them. So sorry. So we use opencollective.com, which I strongly recommend having a look if you haven't yet, to manage all the finances of the initiative transparently. As transparent as I cannot spend a single dollar, or I cannot put a single dollar into the account without issuing an invoice that that the team will have to review and that will appear publicly there. So if you go to opencollective.com/async API, you will see all the details of where we spend the money and what we spend the money, who donated the money, and everything. So everything is transparent, and Open Collective doesn't let us to do weird stuff with it, which is cool. And yeah, so I will say we're in pretty healthy financial state for our needs right now. It keeps growing. This amount keeps growing. So I always say that if you are an individual contributor or not, but an individual not representing a company, who wants to donate money, in the past I will say like, yeah, everything adds, but right now we're saying like, no, don't do that. Let's just let companies donate the money, because they are the ones that have the money. And so if you're an individual contributor, we welcome much more, contributions in terms of code, in terms of talks in conferences, in terms of design, in terms of many other stuff, right? And and speaking about design, so just so I don't forget, Missy is gonna kill me because I forgot to include a slide of the new brand. So we got a new brand, right? And let me go back. We got a new brand. This is the new logo and all the stuff. But if you go to our website, you'll see that Missy has done a great job redoing all the logo and brand stuff. So yeah, have a look because it's really cool. And we're still welcoming new design contributions as well. So Missy is not alone. There are all other people doing design contributions, but it's an open source project. People are usually not expert in design, so yeah, design contributions are also welcome. And so what are we spending the money on? We spending the money in many different things, but the main one this year is going to be the mentorship program. So we're running a mentorship program, which is it's actually a program, if you know, like Google Summer of Code or the like. So we want to give grants to our community members who are contributing already and want to keep contributing and working on specific issues. So we had so far 11 people, 10 issues, and it's $1,500 grant per person, right? So yeah, this is the first time we do it. We want to keep doing it. We want to keep giving back to the community, because that's what the money is for. Now that everybody is, everybody, like most of us are working for specific companies, so we have our salaries and so on, so we don't have to touch the money of the initiative. And we want to give this money to actually the people who are contributing, right? And so just to mention a little bit about the mentorship program a little bit more, is mainly targeted at people who are getting started in development or in event-driven architectures or in APIs. So we're targeting mainly junior people here. And actually, I will say, if not all, most of them are junior people, and we welcome junior people, junior developers, junior designers, junior X, right? And we're mentoring them. So we make sure that each of them is assigned at least a mentor, right? So yeah, if you're thinking about contributing or joining, go ahead and join the program the next year, because this year is already close. So, and before I continue, I would love to give a huge shout out from here to our sponsors. It will not be possible to have this finances and do all these initiatives without their donations. So thanks goes to Postman, Solaz, IQVIA, IBM, Slack, Ably, WSO2, Bump, and API So we have many more other individual contributors who are donating small amounts. We don't have space to list them all here, but thanks as well, especially that you're not companies, you're individuals, and so it means a lot for us. And what are we doing with this money aside from mentorship program and so on? So since we joined Linux Foundation, we started growing the community, and that meant that we had bandwidth to work on more stuff, or improve the stuff we were working on. So we got new tools. So if you haven't yet, have a look at Async API Studio. Everything that I'm mentioning here is on the website, asyncapa.com. So you can go there and see what it is, or how it looks like, and even use it. No fee, no sign up required or anything. We released also our first version of the CLI, so an Async API CLI that lets you work with Async API documents from the comfort of your command line. And also we're developing, but still not yet production ready, a framework, a spec first framework called Glee. So if you don't know what it is, what is spec first and so on, I encourage you to have a look, and you'll see that it will resonate a lot with you. I'm pretty sure, and you'll see that specifications like Async API or Open API or others are not just for documentation purposes, and actually documentation is just a beautiful side effect, but it's not the main purpose. So yeah, have a look. Cool. So that is the current state, let's say, of a big picture of how the Async API initiative looks like right now. But what is next? So next I'm gonna drink. What's next? We keep working and iterating on the plans that we have for the future. We don't set specific idea and we pursue it like crazy, right? So we have a vision, right? We want to make Async API a bigger spec in terms of what it supports, and also Async API initiative as in a bigger community. But there are reasons on why we want to set a new direction, let's say, onto the initiative itself and the spec and the tools, right? So let me summarize a little bit and take you to a place where you will better understand why we got the direction and the plans we got. So this is the current landscape of APIs and event-driven architectures and so on, right? We got REST, GraphQL, gRPC, messaging, SOAP. Yeah, we still have SOAP. And we got a lot of specifications like OpenAPI, async API, GraphQL schema, right? It's a specification, gRPC, protobuf, JSON schema, Avro, RAML, WSDL, and XSD, right? A lot. If you think I've used all of them, you're wrong. I'm not even used. I have not even used most of them. So yeah. And I guess you neither, and you cannot master all of them, right? So a little bit of an overview is if you're doing REST APIs, you're probably using OpenAPI, or you should, because it's a good standard for REST APIs, or you're probably using, and you're probably using JSON schema, even though you might not know it, but schemas on OpenAPI are JSON schema, as well as in async API. And or you might be using RAML, right? So RAML also has this, specific. RAML is a specification for defining REST APIs. From MuleSoft. There's GraphQL, and either you like it or know it or not, GraphQL has a specification which is GraphQL schema, and you gotta use it, right? So it's there. With gRPC, you have the one with the same name, gRPC and protobuf, right? These are specifications that you have to use and learn, right? All of this that I'm talking about, you have to always learn all the specifications to work with this type of APIs. In messaging, in event-driven architectures, right, you have to learn async API, and because async API uses by default JSON schema behind the scenes, like OpenAPI, you also have to learn how to use JSON schema. Or if you're doing Kafka or any other Apache project, you probably want to use Avro, and that's also possible to do it with async API. Or you might want to reuse your RAML data types that you were using for your REST APIs with RAML, and that's also possible with async API. And last but not least, you have SOAP, and for that you have WSDL and XSD. So there's a lot of schemas and standards, that you have to learn, and if you want to make it work, right? If we look at it from a broader perspective, when you create a product or an application or whatever similar, you need to take decisions and learn things about security, deployment, storage. You need to decide what to use and how to use it. But turns out that when it comes to security or storage or deployment, there are pretty cool guidelines and what to use and tools, right? Which are mainly standard. So for instance, nowadays you have Kubernetes for deployment, and or you have Docker as well, and for storage you might have how's it called? You have SQL or SQL, I don't know how you call it, and that is pretty much standard. I know it varies between providers, but it doesn't vary a lot, right? So yeah. But what happens with when it comes to APIs or event-driven architectures or interfaces? We have this mess that I was just describing, right? And so that's why I'm saying it there, like user experience there needs to be seamless, right? And it's not there yet. It's not seamless at all, right? So knowing all this problem, knowing all this landscape, we came up with a vision on async API. And for the next 5 years, we want async API to become the #1 API specification for defining and developing APIs, any kind of APIs. Yes, not just asynchronous APIs or event-driven APIs. We'll have to see what we do with the name, because it says asynchronous APIs, right? I'm kidding. We'll keep it. But yeah, like we are right now in the middle of the effort of unifying all the kind of APIs into the async API specification and tools. Does it mean that we want to replace OpenAPI or we want to replace GraphQL or gRPC? No, we're crazy, but not that crazy. So, and we're always trying to have the user experience in mind and as a first citizen. So if you already have OpenAPI, if you already have GraphQL, gRPC, and so on, you shouldn't be changing all your stuff, right? And we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel just because it is good for us. No. Instead, what we do is we integrate with the OpenAPI specification, we integrate with the GraphQL specification, we integrate with the gRPC specification. So that means that our specification and tools should be able to understand other specifications. It's a challenge, and we take it. So yeah, that's the vision, and that's the vision for the next 4-5 years. And user experience, development experience is our, as I said, it's one of our top priorities. And as you can imagine, having all these variations, all these possibilities, like you should be able to, with a single tool, with a tool set on async API, you should be able to work with REST APIs, with RPC APIs, with GraphQL, with gRPC, right, and all of that. So that's a challenge, and we don't want to do it alone. We can't do it alone. So that's why we're always encouraging people and helping the community, right? Like, hey, let's grow this community together. Let's make it big, right? Let's make it big, because that is not possible to be sustained by a simple group of people. It is not. It's basically impossible. So yeah, my encouragement here goes to you to join our beautiful initiative. We're always helping each other. And so I'm gonna take the opportunity that we're here on API Days, and since they're folks, would love to mention that we're organizing the first in-person async API conference. So online, virtual. We have already organized 2 async API conferences in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, of the confinement, right? And last year as well. Since it's growing so much and the demand for meeting in person is already growing, we're gonna celebrate an in-person and virtual this year in November 2022. As you can see, there are no specific days, it just says November, and it doesn't say the place. So everything we do is community driven, even the conference, right? The whole conference is organized by the community. You can see it in our GitHub discussions. You can join our GitHub discussions and make an impact there. You want the conference to be organized in Barcelona, go there and say, I want Barcelona. You prefer this to be in Lisbon? Go there and say, I prefer Lisbon. If you go to the website, you'll see that that you can complete a survey and decide when it's best for you to do the conference, where it's best for you to do the conference, and many other stuff. Like everything has always been and is still being decided by the community and organized by the community. So there's no company behind it, by the way. So yeah, we have to do it with the community, and everything is organized in public and using the GitHub discussions, and also we organize regularly Zoom meetings so people can join and discuss, but we don't take decisions on meetings. So yeah, no, don't worry if you cannot join to certain meetings. We take decisions only in the discussions where everybody can participate and have time to do it. Phew, a lot of things. So yeah, last as always, join us. Like I said a lot of times. So yeah, we're great people. Please join us, and yeah, welcome and thanks. Almost on time. Oh,
Yeah, perfect timing. We will, as API Days, we will support there at least when the date will be there, and when the date will be there, and the time and the location will be there. We will support definitely. I thought you didn't want to put it because you wanted everything to be asynchronous, so it will come later. But I thought
That
it
would
was
be
a good
amazing.
a good
Well,
point.
one of the things, because this is crazy, because community-driven things that have this thing, and is that there was a proposal that we organize multiple small conferences across the globe, right? And we all do it in sync, more or less, everyone in their time zone, right? And so everything will be virtual and in person at the same time. But that requires a huge effort of organizing. So yeah.
So synchronous, asynchronous,
Synchronous, asynchronous. Yeah. So you don't have to travel.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Fran. Again, I remember when, let's say we were I think 5-6 years ago, you started. A lot of people were, you were almost alone. And then now there's a lot of people behind you, a great community, great sponsors.
Yeah.
You're taking it over. So yeah, congrats for that. But let's continue to do it for the next 5 years.
Yes, please. Let's do it even more. And now I'll let you hear with Ace, which is Elek Bede Aziz. Ace.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go with Ace. Thank you.
A great talk. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Hasta luego. And so now we will have our next speaker. So Ace, as it's here. So or Aziz, developer relation engineer at Async API, with a talk about 0 to hero with Async API. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, let's go. 0 to hero, one letter, but what a difference.
Hello everyone. I'm Elibedi Aziz, and I'm currently, a big fan of Async API and what it has to offer in future. Pretty excited for this talk, and I'm like so happy, to be given the opportunity to preach the gospel about Async API with you guys. So let's get right into it. So in today's talk, I'm going to be taking you guys from 0 to hero in Async API, right? So let's get started. So a little bit of introduction about me. I've said it before. I'm a developer relations engineer, and I'm also an individual contributor at Async API. So what is Async API? So basically, Async API is a specification and an ecosystem of tools to define and work with event-driven architectures. So why, there has to be a reason why Async API is like a thing, right? So and in my whole basic understanding, I felt Async API is actually driven by the lack of tooling in the message-driven API. If you look at RESTful APIs, right? You see all these awesome tools that you can use to build your RESTful API that can help you do awesome stuff with RESTful APIs. But when you look at if you start doing event-driven architectures or message-driven APIs, you see there are lack of tools, right? So and Async API is here to stop that and build awesome tools that can make your life easy while building message-driven APIs. So basically, I feel so. REST APIs have open APIs, and message-driven APIs have Async API. So when somebody asks me, "Oh, what is Async API?" and I don't want to start saying all this technical stuff, then I ask, you familiar with RESTful APIs? And they say, yes, why not? I'm okay. I know RESTful APIs, and I say, yes. So Open API, right? And they're like, yeah, why not? I know Open API, and I'm like, okay, so. What's the way Open API makes developing RESTful API so easy is the same way Async API makes message-driven API so easy. So Async API is actually the version of Open API, but for message-driven APIs, right? So let's get into it. Let's say more. So the Async API specification, what is the purpose, right? So, you can use it to develop event-driven microservices, IoT, kind of things, streaming APIs, and pretty much all kind of APIs, at least. And the specification actually supports all kind of locals like AMQP, Kafka, WebSocket, MQTT, HTTP, to be awesome, why not? any kind of protocol. So the specification actually has like, the way OpenAPI has its own specification, the CKPI also has its own, right? And I think the four most common ones is actually, the info schema, the servers, channels, and the components, right? So those are like the most used one. So why don't I show you guys how it works? Like, let's see some magic. Let's see some action, right? So I'm gonna open a new tab, and we're gonna create, say, how a KPI works. I'm pretty nervous, right? So you guys should please bear with me. So I have this folder created for API days. Sorry. Okay, so first and first, before you start, working on, before you start building with async API, you need to first create your async API.yaml file, or if you love JSON, it can be a JSON file in your case, right? So async API.yaml. Oh, sorry, title. Async API.yaml. We are going to define our specification, right? So we're going to make it quick because we don't have enough time. So let's say it's an API, which is the first thing you have to like define when you're writing your specification. So we're going to use the version 2.4 rather. So we can define the info schema. That's the information about our application. So we're going to give it a title of streetlight. So, and we give we have to like tell what version of our application are we building, right? So we have given a version. Let's say we have built the first version, then version 1. Then what next? So we need to tell async API, oh, what server are we going to use, right? Is it MQTT? Is it HTTP? Is it WebSocket? So in this case, we'll be using, MQTT. So we need to specify the server object. And we're going to like tell async API we are using a development server. So we specify what type of server we are building on. So we say we are building a development server. So in your case, it can be any kind of server. It can be a production server. You can name it anything you like. It doesn't have to be development or production. You can typically name it anything. So we have to specify the URL. So that's where our server is sitting. So we're going to use test.mosquito.org. So we need to like define the protocol. So like, as I said earlier, we're using MQTT, right? So in your case, it can be any kind of protocol. It can be WebSocket. So we give it a description. So we just call it, this is the server, right? Server. So this is the server. Then that's it. Now we need to like define our channels, right? So and I feel if most of you that have done, use OpenAPI to build your RESTful APIs will be familiar with this approach. So we define our channels, and we have to create our first channel, right? So in this particular aspect, because I'm building a street light, right? So I want to have a channel for turning on the street light, right? So and I have a channel called turn on. So I have my channel, and now I need to say what this channel is doing, right? This is a published channel. I want you to turn the street light on. So I want to publish an event. Publish. Then I can specify, the message. So please have it in mind. This is just a basic use case of a sync API. You can actually use it to build more sophisticated applications than this. So we have a message, then we give our message a description, right? Description of our message is just this is the turn on message, right? So this is a simple description. Then we define our payload. That's the message property, message payload rather, which is a type of object. So we define the property. You don't have to like do all these steps, right? So I'm just trying to like go a little bit in depth. So we define properties. Then we give our property an ID, right? So an ID of type string. So your ID might have a type of an integer, right? So it doesn't have to be a string. Then we describe description of these lights ID, right? So an example of our ID. So we can specify what kind of ID we're using, for example. So an example is this. You can just say street lights 001. So this is now we have like an async API file, a very, very basic one. And in order to test this async API file, so we have a playground called Studio, right? Which you can use to test your async API file and say a real-time generation of a real-time documentation generation for async API file, right? So we load the Studio. Studio, right? So we have the Studio and we can paste it here. So you see, and the one thing about the Studio is it helps you know where you're having issues with your what's it called? Okay, with your async API file, right? So it says we have a bad indentation. Okay. Hold on, give me a few seconds. Oh. So we need to fix this. Hold on. Sorry for the delay. Okay. Yeah, so something crazy is going on. I'm trying to fix this YAML format. Okay. Oof, live coding, huh? Format. Oh, I'm running out of time. Okay. I'm having issues here. So it says we have a bad indentation. Trying to fix it. Sorry. Okay. Says um, hmm. Payload should be in the same level as messenger description. Okay. Oh. Didn't plan for this. Sure. Just weird. Oh. It's my time. Servers. Still visuals. Not teach. Something. Okay. Sorry for the delay, guys.
No issues, Ace. No worries. The thing is, someone said you should put servers with an S.
Actually, the what?
Servers with an S. Like here.
Servers. Servers. Shit. Now I'm getting a bunch of errors. Oh, I didn't plan for this.
Yeah, we're asking Macias to join.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Macias. So can we do some pair programming here?
Yeah. So okay, the
The
channels,
code.
the turn on publish is okay. The publish message. You should probably change the payload type to the object with the small letter, not the big one, and then adjust the ID. Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
Mashik,
Hello. Do you hear me?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you,
Yeah, I
but
can hear
do
you,
you hear
Mashik.
me? Okay, so you should change the type of the
Yeah, I
payload
do
of
hear
the
you. I do
object
hear
with
you.
the small letter. Yeah, and make the
Oh,
indentation in the properties to ID to the left, one left, and then examples. Yeah, but example is also valid, and it works.
oh. Sorry, that was pretty messed up.
No problem.
No problem. That happens. First, the demo effect, then like mistakes we make on our own, like are impossible to find. You could have taken 3 hours to solve it. So
Definitely. Yeah, I got nervous. Yeah, so thanks to Mashik, we're able to like resolve the issue. So we have the server, the SKPI file up and running, right? And thanks to the generator, we were able to like notice we have some indentation and some issues with the specified specification. So now we have to like
Ace,
generate. So we
Ace,
have
we have 5 minutes.
hi.
I know, but please tell us what you can do in the next 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay. So because I'm out of time, guys, so I would really love to like have demoed the entire thing. But now after we've generated the specification, so we have a tool called generator. So and thanks to the generator can help us, generate a project based on the ACKPI file specification. We have a lot of a lot of generators, right? We have the HTML generator, Markdown, and so on. But in my case, I won't be able to like demo the rest of the presentation. But in my case, I was going to use the Node.js generator, and it's pretty easy. You just have to like install the package and just copy this code here to help you, generate your project, right? So it has AG, and this particular part here is a reference to where your ACKPI file is. So it can be somewhere on the server or on your laptop, and you just specify the generator here you want to use generator template, and you can specify which server. In my case, I only have a production server, a development server rather. So in my case, I will be referencing to the development server. Then in no time, the generator generates my Node.js project. Then I can just run npm start. Then voila, like I have my project up and running. Then from there, you become an API hero. Basically, very easy with less stress, right? So I'm pretty not happy because I ran into some issue, and this is my first live, demoing of the project, and it didn't go pretty well as expected. So that's basically everything.
Yeah, again, Ace, no worries. Again, it happened to everyone. Again, and it shows that programming is actually it's a teamwork. That shows that it's a teamwork, and yeah, we do better when more eyes look at this. And this is why Async API is also a community, right? And Maciet, I think we pronounce it like that. Sorry if I don't pronounce it well. Was there, and again, so yeah, and so you can see that the async API community is a vibrant community and helpful community. And again, we'll love to have you again to show you so you can show us the full workflow. No worries.
Okay, thanks so much, Mehdi.
No worry, Ace. It was great to have you. Thank you for showing us that the path, the workflow, and yeah, we'll love to have you for another event.
Yeah, thank you so much.
See you. Yeah, again, that happens, but this is what Orso community are made of. They are made of builders, and they always, you don't even success at first time, but the goal here is to support. So again, we'll love to have Ace for another one. And then we'll have a talk about, to continue on ASIC API, the power of ASIC API tool side capabilities, right? So I'll ask Mashke to come back.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, hello, the stage is yours for 25 minutes. Yeah, and if you need any assistance, we can ask Ace at some point.
Okay, no problem. I hope so that it won't be the problem. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Maciej Urbańczyk. I am a senior front-end engineer at Postman in the open technology team working on Essence API initiative, mainly on the Essence API tool ecosystem, but sometimes also on the spec development. There are some links. If you want, you could send me an invitation to the network in the LinkedIn, or even follow my GitHub account. This is the first conference, so I would like to thank you, the organizers, for accepting my topic, and as well as everyone here to listen to me. So today I would like to show a presentation with a title which sounds a bit like the clickbait, the power of Essence API tool-side capabilities. I wouldn't focus here mainly on the tools, but show you some ideas, some proposals, how you can use the Essence API in the production use case, in which scenarios then Essence API provide you some additional possibilities. Yes, I will talk about, but not limit of generation of code and documentation using the Essence API, or how to find and analyze the relationship between the two Essence API documents or more. So what is very, very important, what you should remember, that the Essence API is an interface for the described application. At the very end of presentation, I will present one tool that extends this assumption by treating specification as a config. So yeah, before I starting presenting the ideas for what you use as APIs, I would like to talk first about the tools, or rather the group of the tools, because without the tools, the specification wouldn't make sense at all. Yeah, we can define main three groups of tools. Yeah, the first such a group of tools associated with the specification, mainly focusing on the spec itself, is a group that we can call the spec-oriented tools. One of the tools in this group is the parser, which is a most important tool in the ecosystem, because without it, the other tools wouldn't work, because the parser checks if our specification is correct or not. Additionally, it provides either API to read the data from the specification. From previous presentation, you should probably know, but at the moment you know that inside the operation you can define the messages. Yes, so the parser just provides the methods which make it easier for us to retrieve the all messages used in Essence API. So we don't need to write that logic inside our project, inside our tools. We have a parser written in the JS, which is a main parser, and people need to update that tool with new methods as well when they want to add something new to the spec. So the parser takes a part in our release process, and it's very, very important part. And we have also the parser written in the Go. Next to the parser, we have also the parser API, which is a document describing what interfaces each parser in our ecosystem should satisfy, because we need to be consistent in the implementation to provide nice developer experience. We can also include to this group the tool like the converter, thanks to which we can convert old Essence API specification to the newer one. We can also optimize the specification with the optimizer, for example, by removing unused references from the components sections. Here's also a possibility to compare to specification using the diff tool. It allows us to see what changes have occurred between the two revisions of the specification. And this is similar to pull request changes on the GitHub. The pull request changes view or similar sites, but because we have a versioning inside the Essence API itself in the info object, diff show us if a given change is a breaking change or not, and by this we can decide if we should bump the version of the given spec. And the last one, but not least, is a bundler, which allows us to bundle all references in the single file. We often divide the specification like Essence API or even the Open API in the several parts, which we describe in the separate files, the common files. And this tool allows us to better distribution of the given spec. So it's the first group of the tools. The second group of tools is the one that usually uses the previously discussed one, but its task is to use the specification for purposes other than the documentation itself. So we can call them the capability-oriented tools, and I will presenting some of them in today's presentation. So here we have a generator for generating the things. We have also the Modelina, which is a cousin of the generator, but mainly focused on the model generation. We have also the Cupid, which allows us to visualize the relationship between the application, the data flow between them. And in our ecosystem, we have also a framework called the GLI, which extends the design first approach. We have also other tools in this area, but I don't want to focus today on the another tools. So at the last group, which I don't want to talk about it too much, but just mention, is a group of tools that expose the mentioned tools, previously one, through the various APIs like the command line, the Studio UI, which expose some set of the tools in the browser side. We have also the server API, which is a simpler server that makes the tools available via the HTTP. So, okay, so going to the main part of the presentation. The first idea for what you can use Essence API is to generate the documentation and the code using a given specification. Yeah. And someone might ask why you mention generating documentation if Essence API is documentation exactly, yeah? And to be honest, it's a good question, but sometimes Essence API is not very easy to understand and first look for people not familiar with the specification, yeah? Or for not technical people like the stakeholders, for example. So the generating documentation is about generating in an easier way, in an easier form documentation like the HTML page or the Markdown file. We can also generate the API clients based on the specification. We have an example where we have some application with exposed API to the clients, to our clients, and in some development period of time, we want to expose API in the nice way, yeah? So we can write it by hand or use the spec to generate it for us. We can also hire some student to write us this, but yeah, it could be the problem because we need to pay that person. So generation is better if you want to save your money. We have also the possibility to generate models based on the Essence API. Um, it, it seems to me that the next to the documentation generation, model are the most popular form because they allow us to transfer a given form of a model shape from one format like the JSON schema to the another format like the class in the programming language. The model generation itself can be also used to generate API clients. So these types of generation complement each other. And the last type of generation is to generate entire application based on the Essence API. This usually works in that form that the entire application is generated for a given language and the framework, and then the business logic is completed by the developers. It's very tricky kind of generation because we have to spend a lot of time preparing such a generation for a given language and framework, and sometimes it can be very, very complicated. So personally, I don't like it for two reasons. The mentioned time, the high probability of the bugs, and the situation when we want to regenerate something, yeah, regenerate the entire application because the new version of generation come out, and then what about already written the business logic, yes, how to save it. However, I know that the big companies who use the Essence API at the moment in the production use the server generation for prototyping or initial testing of API, and this use case can make sense. So for that idea of generation things in tooling ecosystem in Essence API, we have a generator that allows us to use different types of generation. Here is a link to the GitHub repository if anyone will be interested in learning more about this tool. It works similar to OpenAPI if you are familiar with it. The generator is a library that doesn't generate anything. So for generate something, we need the template, which is the separate project. Yes, just like the Essence API, everything in our tool is distributed. The generator takes as an input the valid Essence API and the template, and the template is a recipe for how to create something based on the Essence API definition. It's actually a published Node.js package because the generator is written in the Node.js, in the npm registry, of course, and it contains how to call that, the set or maybe the sequence of the instruction, or more precisely the files that need to be generated. Yes, it can be anything, a programming language, a script file, anything. Yes, based on the template we generate documentation, API clients, the models, and the server boilerplates. So each template can follow only by one kind of generation or use the several ones. Yes, generate several ones. So the official Essence API templates at the moment are, for documentation, we have the HTML template, we have also the Markdown template, and also the PDF generation, which is based on the HTML documentation because we only render the HTML output inside the PDF. We have also the several templates focused only on the API clients and few templates for generating server boilerplates. You can find a whole list of the official templates alongside with the docs in the generator repository. You can also create your own template and contribute to our organization initiative like most templates. So there is nothing stopping you from writing a template yourself. Yeah. So how to use the generator? You can use a generator as the command line, and you can also use the generator as in the browser in the studio.essenceapi.com or by server that we host, and you can make requests to generate some templates. We have also Docker if you don't want to use and install Node.js in your computer, and also the GitHub action, which allows you to generate something when you, for example, push something new to the main branch. Yes, so you can something in the app as well as the documentation in Essence API, and then to want to regenerate something like the HTML documentation. So I didn't mention the model generation in the previous slides on purpose because I would like to discuss it here. Modelina is a tool that is used to generate models based on various inputs, mainly the Essence API. It's not a tool closely related to the generator because it's a separate library, which which can be even used in the browser. And as I mentioned, it can be also used in the template itself. As input, Modelina takes the valid Essence API document, also the regular JSON schema, or even the Open API in latest version. Additionally, because the Essence API allows you to define the schemas in the message payload, like the additional formats, like the Avro or RAM, we can also generate models from these types, the data types. Supported outputs are the Java, the JavaScript, the TypeScript, the Golang, and the Dart. Additionally, if you want, you can extend Modelina with new language, even if you need to pin in the generation process. Yes, you can use the presets, which are the plugins to, for example, change the default date type for the generated models. Yes, so yeah, it's a Modelina. So another way to use the Essence API is to find relationship and analyze them from the Essence API files. Mainly, it's a finding data flow, message flow between the application and the services based on the channels and operations. We can also try to describe the relationship in the larger system when we use, for example, the broker or event streaming. However, we have to remember about the publish and subscribe confusion, the publish subscribe meaning. I will describe that problem in this example. Yeah, you can find the link to the project to the Essence API files in the subtitle. The project has three services that share the same server shown on the left. Each service has a menu one channel defined, which implements either the subscribe or the publish operation. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you need to remember the publish and subscribe meaning, because the Essence API is an API described from the client perspective, not from the application point of view. Yeah. So the publish means that the application is waiting for some message, for something, for some events, and subscribe means that the application is sending something to the system, to client or application. Yeah, and in this case, the subscriber service sends something to the system by the subscribe syntax. Monitor service can retrieve it from the subscriber service by the publish syntax, and the same situation on the same channels we have with the monitor and the notifier service. In this scenario, we can say that we have the broker-centric approach, yeah, because the communication goes through the same server, which we can consider as a broker. However, there are also the other situation, much simpler, when we want to describe, for example, the WebSocket server and some clients on the browser side. So we have only two services that communicate each other. So this example show us that we are able to use the Essence API to create relationship and search for them the connections, but it rather works by the convention depending on the scenario we are describing. So whether it's a broker or the server client, yes. And we have to remember that problem, because sometimes assumption could be wrong for the given use case. So the previously generated relationship on the right was created by a library called the Cupid. The library itself is quite simple. It accepts as input two or more Essence API valid documents and finds the relations using them, but based on the server address. So it can be a problem in some scenario, because sometimes you only want to know which messages on a given channel can be sent to the other application without the server is information, yeah, server address. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have a tool that uses the principle of the design first, or more precisely the speak first, because we use the Essence API to document some application. But it extends that idea to treating spec as a config, yes, as already from. Yeah, and the tool already is mentioned by the friend in the previous talk. We have created that framework that implement that idea, the GLI. It makes sure your code and Essence API definition are on pair. Before you start your application, GLI try to check if everything is okay with your business logic, check if you implemented the given operation, and if not, you cannot run your application. And how it works. The GLI reads your Essence API definition file and searches for all the publish operation containing the operation ID attributes. Why the publish? Because as we know from the previous slides, the publish means that the application waits for something, yes? So the operation ID serves a mechanism to bind a given operation to a specific function file. For instance, for given Essence API definition on the left, the GLI maps the onUserSignap operation to the function onUserSignap TypeScript file. The functions folder is required because the GLI checks implemented operation in that div. Of course, it's a very opinionated tool written in Node.js. At the moment, it has a lot of functionality like the validation of incoming messages based on the message payload definition, support also the request reply semantic, and other stuff. We know about that problem that some people from our community want to use such a tool in the different languages, but it's hard to do this because we don't want to maintain a lot of the project, the similar project in the another language. I am thinking out loud here, but maybe in the future we'll switch from the framework approach here to the developer tool, where we will check consistency of the app logic and the Essence API definition on the command line on some CI/CD side, yes, not on the programming language side. So yeah, so the presented ideas of using Essence API are not only possibilities. For example, other possibilities include the creating a UI, where the user can manually test the API, similar to how the Swagger UI works. We can also treat the Essence API as the source of the data in the testing scenario, so to create some test scenarios. or treat the Essence API as a config for initialize, for example, the event gateways. Yes. So we have also the tools. Yeah, we have also the tools that I didn't mention in this presentation. So you should check our GitHub repository. And of course, please remember that mentioned tools may not support certain use cases that you want. Some of them support a lot already, but still most of them have not reached the first major version, and some from them are the big POC. And of course, thanks to the entire community for the work for Essence API. Without because without it, there will not be today's presentation, because I would not have anything to talk about and show you. Yeah. So really, really thank you. Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you, yeah.
No, please go on. Sorry.
Okay. And if you wanna be part of our community, here are the links that you need for our website, GitHub, Essence API, Twitter, and the LinkedIn. And yeah, and that's it. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you enjoy my presentation and maybe learn something new.
Yeah, it ain't much, but this is I don't remember the meme you had at the end. But yeah, thank you very much. One question, like to understand about the velocity of the community, you said most of these tools are made by the community, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, today, like, how would you just to understand the velocity of the open source project, right, or the open of the spec? How many of these tools are made by, like, do you identify core group of contributors, or it goes from anywhere?
Yeah, the core of the contributors, of course, is a team working on the Postman, as Fred said in the previous presentation. But we have also a lot of people working, in the free time or from the another companies. So I can say that maybe we have 7 or 8 the projects that only we focus, by the core team, and the another one, mostly the templates, is created by the community. For example, we have 3 great templates for the Java Spring, JavaScript, CloudStream, and the JMS. We have also for the PHP, for Python, for .NET, for TypeScript. Yeah, so we have really great community who exactly active contribute to us. And also in the previous year, we have also we also take the part in the GSOC. So by this, we create also the 5 another projects like the div, optimizer, the bundler, etc., etc. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. How on the other side, like on the governance of these tools, like how does that work? Is it mostly like hobbyists or doing things? You said sometimes employees by companies are doing it, but like, where does this tool come? It's a demand that is identified and you call for tools to be built, or it's just like developers who say like, I think this should be the right tool, and they build it?
Yeah, the second one, the people. We also in our website we have these options that if you create some tool in open source, you can also add the link in our website for that. So the mostly tool is not created that we need something or something like that, we have this governor or something like that. No, the people exactly create this and then contribute to us. Of course, we usually want to the switch this tool from some personal account in the GitHub or in the company to us, because then we show that for the entire community. And then sometimes in the open source it works that people don't have time sometimes. Yeah, maybe some family problems, etc., etc. So then we have the possibility to jump in, fix some problems, etc. Yeah. So yeah, so the second one, as you said.
Yeah. So the thing, maybe a last question here. So you said there are a lot of tools. You showed us a full kind of workflow and everything, what you know and use. There are a lot of tools that you could not describe. But let's say if we have a developer here who doesn't know what to build, but who wants to build something useful, what tool you always dreamed of and that's missing? Like it's maybe a hard question, but
yeah, it's probably hard because we have a lot of tools, but we To be honest, we have missed one very important, but we are working on that in the core team, and it's a ADI visualizer, which we want to, expose the event storming idea to Essence API. Yeah. So by this, you can create the API by the blocks. So for example, you can create some application like the domain, the event storming, and then create some the blocks like the channels, messages, operation, and connect them. And by this, you can create all the system with the brokers, and the pin the domains. So yeah, so
No worries.
probably the one, the tool that we are missing.
No, again, so maybe the only tool that's missing is the next one, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also we are missing some templates because I didn't mention that in my presentation about the API generation. Yes, but if you have the the tool like the Open API generator, you have the programming language and the framework, and for the given programming language you have the combination. Sorry, the generation is a combination of the number of programming languages and frameworks, but in the Essence API is also the protocols. So this number, it can be something like the 300, and by this we need 300 templates. So it's also the missing, the part of the tooling. So
We have a question about bug bounty. No, I don't know if at the stage you are, do you offer bug bounties, but
mhm.
Nope.
Okay. So
yeah. So also a question about like the event. So Fran shared some news about the next event. So it's not decided yet, right? But who are you interested to have at the event? Like anyone from the community can apply.
do you mean the changes in the spec or?
Yeah, the async API event, like the async API event conference. I think.
Aha, yeah, everyone can. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
so
everyone.
if you yeah, so if you have some interesting tool, you can apply, and yeah, we probably will accept you.
Yeah, perfect. So it's really great to see so much community decisions, organization. It's let's say lot of specs and standard are killed when they go to official, right? And so it seems you keep the velocity, you keep the dynamic. I think it's really rare to see that. So yeah, please keep the momentum, keep the vibe, and yes, the whole API industry is like following what you do, and the way the community is run is maybe an example for many other specs who, let's say, have been sometimes slower to evolve.
Yeah, thank you very much. We want to fix the problems that we see in another, the communities. So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the tech is not the problem. The governance is the problem. So, but that's not it's the community. So yeah, anyone, you can vote. You can go on the Slack channel of Async API or on the GitHub and participate into the vote, so you can make the spec you want, right, as a community.
Yeah, if you want, okay, I also want to add something. If you want, you can also create the PRs with changes to the spec. So yeah, we answer to every, so it's no problem.
Yeah, pull requests are welcomed.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you again, and we will go to our next speaker if he's able to join the stage. Thank you very much. So we'll check if everything works. If you can be on stage. Hello, Ismail. How are you doing? You are on mute, Ismail.
Even better now that I can speak. So great.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you. Yes, so we'll hope you enjoy your time with us with a nice Async API logo. And I invite you to share your slides and or your screen, and so you can go.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And first of all, thanks for the last presentation. And I have to add, as a kind of recent arrival, the community of Async API is fantastic. It's one of the best open source contribution experiences, both in terms of how well organized it is and the culture of it. So yeah, if in doubt, even if you've never touched it, just the community is worth it. So yeah, highly recommend it. So today, I am addressing sort of design first and event first, and async API, and sort of how they connect or not together. So first of all, this is what I'm going to be covering. It doesn't really tell you very much, so you'll have to follow and see. Now, about me, my name is Ismael Velasco, and I am a Mexican cosmopolite based in Suffolk in England. I am development technical lead at Grace.com, and I am an opera singer with the Verdi asynchronous baritones. And you can also find me on Twitter, and please connect, because it's a fantastic conversation that's going on in Twitter. I think it's yeah, I'm hugely appreciating it. And in addition to working at Grace, I am very passionate about social impact. I created a social innovation consultancy. I host the Greener Web and you should say Greener Infra in Climate Action Tech Slack group, which is fantastic. And I'm one of the organizers with the International Environment Forum at COP26, etc. So these are interests. If you're interested in any sort of tech for good type thing, please hit me up. And as to that, well, it's not actually true. I'm not really with an opera singer with a very asynchronous baritones, but the rest is in fact true. So I want to take us I think we've been looking at very granular ways at async API, and I want to take a kind of more design-based perspective. And one of the things that many of you will be aware of is Conway's law. Conway's law says that applications, the architecture of software applications, reflects the communication flows of the company or organization that is building them. So if you've got sort of 5 departments, then chances are your architecture will be divided into 5 parts. And sort of that mesh between technology and organization culture seems quite significant. And it seems to me that in this sort of this perspective of Conway's law applies more generally at the sort of social level too, so that society has been really quite synchronous and hierarchical and not very event-driven really for quite a long time in the industrialized North. So, you know, we go to school at the same time regardless of events. We tend to go to work likewise, you know, regardless of whether we're feeling happy or sad or energetic or switched on or switched off. As developers, we tend to have more choice in that matter. And likewise, our technology, our APIs are sort of traditionally REST APIs, and others are sort of known as sort of command and response APIs, and they seem to mirror. And our technology, generally our infrastructure, has seemed to work really in this synchronous command request mode mostly. And likewise, therefore, like society, so has, you know, you plugged things in order to switch them on. You press things in order to sort of trigger behavior. You commanded and responded. Most of our technology for most of history has been synchronous. Most recently, that has changed. Our technology has become and is becoming increasingly asynchronous. Our Internet of Things and microservices and just general approaches are more about communication and messaging, and less, and they are asynchronous and agnostic, and they are reactive in a big way. And society seems to be moving in that way too. Sort of the pandemic accelerated that dramatically. So we're able to kind of be more organic. Now, I spent some time living in Tanzania amongst a Maasai tribe. And it was very interesting because one of the challenges that we have with asynchronous systems and APIs, the biggest challenge in a sense is getting the balance right. So the asynchronous nature of it gives you wonderful advantages. It gives you decoupling, it gives you reactivity, it gives you delay tolerance, etc. But of course, the trade-off is that communication can get quite complicated. In complexity theory, someone said something quite beautiful that I think applies to all kinds of areas of life. That complexity, which is life, emerges on the edge between order and chaos. Too much order and the system doesn't evolve, and too much chaos and entropy wins. So I think this is something that we tackle in asynchronous systems over and over again. And sort of when we moved en masse into microservices from monoliths, everyone was very excited. And now we have another sort of technical debt crisis as people go, oh, sort of my microservices are not talking to each other in a coherent way, or I've got the worst of both worlds. Now, the reason I want to reflect on Tanzania is because the Maasai are a completely event-driven community. They have almost no technology in the sort of electronic sense. They live completely in touch with the land. There might be, 3 phones in the village, 1 old cassette recorder, and an occasional car that comes once a week. But the rest is all transient and organic and sustainable. And if you say, let's meet at 9 o'clock, your meeting is going to be empty. But if you say, let's meet sort of at sunrise, or let's meet at breakfast, then people will coincide because those events will move. People will not have, you will have a nomadic pastoralist community, and then if there's a need for an injection of cash, at that point, some sort of Maasai warrior will go into the city and work for a few weeks or months and then return. And the weather, the sort of light, the harvest, all of these events will shape the flow of communication and the flow of interaction. And there is this fine balance between this reactive approach and just enough structure to allow people to communicate in predictable ways. So if you're a young sort of Maasai warrior before you've kind of graduated, you're not allowed to eat alone. You have to always eat in a group so that if someone is missing food, they'll be able to share. There are codes like that. There are ways of resolving problems in a very consultative fashion that kind of escalates. So it seems to me that that ecosystem and that way of thinking about society and communication and reciprocity and reactivity, etc., is something that sort of gets us now back here to this sort of API days that, has, other than that, very little in common with the Maasai life. But I think what we are trying to create in this new ecosystem is that balance between too much and too little structure. And that means that unlike the command response ecosystem, where things are based on structure, your job, your career, your sort of role in the family, here it is based on process. We want to create only enough structure for completely diverse devices, services, systems to communicate in a coherent and autonomous way, in ways that sort of advance their individual interests, but sort of vary and nevertheless cohere. So traditionally, what that has meant is that it has been quite hard to bring it all together, because you will build your protocol, your system, and at the end of it, you will expose it to talk to other systems. And if you're in the same protocol as another system, well, that helps. But you might want to talk to yet another system. And really what tends to happen then is that we build our APIs in the sense of sort of the communication interface last. We first sort of build our technology, our application, our use purpose, particularly because we're agnostic. We don't know who's going to consume it in this publisher subscriber ecosystem. We just know we're going to send it out. So we're focused on how do we send it out most efficiently and how do we talk our own protocols. But that layer of communication means that we can easily then get lost in translation. And this can happen on two levels. It can happen if you're a larger organization, for example, and different teams are working on different corners or services of an application. And they might not necessarily be thinking of how exactly others will consume them. So that interoperability becomes increasingly challenging. And the other area is when you are talking outside of your ecosystem to others who might be interested in interacting or consuming the messages that you emit. And one of the things that also we have in common in that sense with Tanzania is that when I was there was one time when we were having a conversation and sort of sharing stories, and I would speak in English, which somebody would translate into Swahili, which then someone would translate into Maasai, or the other way around. Someone would translate it to Maasai, and then the Maasai would translate it to Swahili for other people. And I think that's a situation that's familiar for many of us working in distributed architectures and event-first approaches. So the challenge, I think, is how do we create a communication approach protocol that allows us to communicate? Imagine if in the world, again thinking of the macro scale, if we had some kind of Esperanto, some kind of universal auxiliary language. I still speak Spanish or English, etc. But there is this other language that everybody learns. So wherever you are traveling in the world, as the events happens, you bump into someone else, you can communicate with each other instantly. How would that ability to communicate globally? Most of the interethnic conflicts in the world are also linguistic conflicts. So you can imagine that if we did have a common language in the planet, both the possibilities for collaboration, the tapping and sharing of ideas, and the reduction of conflicts would be dramatic. And I think this is what Async API is sort of trying to offer or is actually offering. And I think the story of Async API is its own demonstration. The fact that Fran Mendes just basically tried to twist OpenAPI to fit his asynchronous use and kept kind of hitting walls where post was a message or was a publish and things didn't quite scale. And then he came up with this kind of draft, and everybody working in event-driven architectures went, I'll have some of that. And at pretty vertiginous speed, it's here today. And it's in Linux Foundation, and it's in Postman, and it has this fantastic collaborative community. And I think the reason is that it takes out the challenge of speaking Swahili to translate to Maasai in order to be understood in English. It allows you to have that auxiliary world language for event-driven architectures. And what that makes possible is that you can begin now with API first, with design first. Your spec creates the kind of configuration that gives you the power that the previous talk illustrated so clearly. you are able to suddenly have asynchronous development processes where you don't have to have your system doesn't have to be in place for consumers or subscribers of that system to be able to build around it, because thanks to your spec, your configuration, you are actually able to mock everything that will come out of it. So you're already able to consume that application before the application even exists. That universal language allows you to understand each other, which also means that, other tendencies around domain-driven design and wordly mapping, these elements of trying to create commonality, become increasingly powerful. And the benefits that we've seen with sort of the convergence around open API specs for REST APIs suddenly become possible for async API. And I think because of the nature of events, then the potential of that common language is even greater than it has been in REST APIs and in synchronous communication, because what we will be able to create in an organic way will be less like it's 9 o'clock, you have to go to school no matter what, you have to go to the office as opposed to work from sort of where it works. And it will be a lot more like that Maasai community process that is self-organizing, that has soft rules around it, but that it allows it to cohere and communicate and create, but this time on a global scale powered by technology. So I guess this presentation really aimed to bring that broader perspective of the design perspective behind async API, and how that process of communication is both a technical one, but also a human one. And that the more we begin to interoperate via that auxiliary language, I think the room for innovation and the business case for asynchronous systems and the sort of cost of complexity will all radically improve and benefit. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Ismail, thank you very much for all of this. Just a quick question on this. So, in the past software history, we had a panel yesterday. You start your talk by saying everything was synchronous. Now it's more synchronous. But let's say we have seen many things, many trends going back. So, do you think this asynchronous moment, how long it will stay, and until when? What will be the next step?
Well, I think this is one of the reasons I was making those parallels between the macro and the micro, between sort of Conway's law at organizational levels and more generally. I think this asynchronous, event-driven, decentralized architecture reflects where society as a whole is moving. So I don't think it's a fad. I think it's a symptom, as it were, an epiphenomenon of a broader trend. I think we are communicating, we are interacting, and the structures that we built in the analog synchronous age, hit barriers, whether it is with educational systems or work or place, etc. So my impression is that, the multiplication of Internet of Things devices, the kind of quantified self, like there's so many applications. I don't think this is going away. I think what we might have is a kind of rebalancing, a course correction, where it doesn't have to be microservices. It can be loosely coupled monoliths, for example. But that, and we're also, we don't give up this element of rules. Structure's still needed, right? So I don't think we'll give up on sort of request command synchronous communication. This is synchronous communication, and it is much better than asynchronous for this kind of setting. So I would imagine both will remain, but I don't think, and we might have a more mature interaction, not least through this kind of open API spec and async API specs interacting and co-evolving. So I think that's going to keep growing, but perhaps in a more integrated and more holistic way as time goes by.
Well, would you say that, let's say, synchronous communication is just one particular use case of asynchronous communication? So everything should be event first, right? Communication, and sometimes, when it makes sense, it can be synchronous. This is the mindset you are pushing?
Not really, because I think it's much more complementary. That's kind of where I think this is going. I think at some point, at the moment, it's all kind of novel. So we're making choices. I'm thinking in those two ways. Whereas the reality is that, for example, async API creates a structure. It's that element of order in the complexity. So I wouldn't be surprised if, in order for asynchronous communication and event-driven things to thrive, you need a sort of framework of synchronous communication, and vice versa. So I imagine that they will measure and validate each other. So you've gone too far one way when the other end starts suffering. And I would imagine that new ways of thinking will emerge that are just beginning now, because it's still so early. And old ways of thinking will return as well.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. A really quick question that someone is asking: what do you use as a software? Do you use OBS plus Genially, the software to run the video?
For the presentation,
Yeah,
yes.
for the presentation.
First time with Genially, and I really like it. I obviously, since it's the first time, I haven't invested, so you all get to see the promotion at the end. Do you want to create something with this? Do it. But I think it's worth investing because it has limitations compared to PowerPoint in terms of how you can change things, but it's much more elegant and beautiful, etc. And when you pay for it, you can export to PowerPoint. So you get the best of both worlds. So I might go in that direction at some point, but I have certainly enjoyed interacting with Genially.
Perfect, Ismael. Thank you very much for your talk and ending the async API, let's say, a segment of the conference. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We will be back in 20 minutes, right? We'll be back in 20 minutes for each track, where you will be able to talk about one side, like more, again, continue the discussion on OpenAPI standard and async API and protocols, and the other track about decentralized finance and APIs and enterprise standards. So see you in 20 minutes from now, 23 minutes from now, actually, at 3:20 p.m. Pacific time. See you.